Over the river and through the wood, to grandfather's house we go. The horse knows the way to carry the sleigh through white and drifted snow. Over the river and through the wood, oh how the wind does blow. It stings the toes and bites the nose as over the ground we go. Over the river and through the wood, to have a full day of play. Oh, hear the bells ringing, ting-a-ling-ling, for it's Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the wood, trot fast my dapple gray, spraying o'er the ground just like a hound, for this is Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the wood, and straight through the barnyard gate, it seems that we go so dreadfully slow, it is so hard to wait. Over the river and through the wood, now grandma's cap I spy. Hurrah for fun, the pudding's done, hurrah for the pumpkin pie.
Welcome to St. Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Georgetown, Texas. We are a congregation that welcomes all, promotes personal and spiritual growth, and works for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Our church is a place that honors wisdom from many religions, embraces wonders and discoveries from our natural world, and engages in social justice action. We are happy to have you join us today, whatever time it may be, and I encourage you to find out more about St. Gabriel UU and get involved through our website at stgabrieluu.org. You can also go there to sign up for our weekly email newsletter called The Messenger. That'll tell you about what's happening in our congregation. Find out more about the Unitarian Universalist Association. That's the larger organization of which we are a part at uua.org.
Welcome to a Sunday morning service at San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, whatever day you may be watching. All are welcome here. I am Reverend Sandra Ingham, this congregation's interim minister, and the title of my reflections today is Thank You So Much. I suspect that this is one of the strangest Thanksgivings most of us have ever experienced. Today I want to explore the possibility of making gratitude a regular, consistent part of our lives, not just something that we emphasize the fourth Sunday of November and occasionally at various other times. How can we make gratitude a spiritual practice for us? Can such a practice be of use in the darkest times of our lives?
I'm Tom Robertson.
And I'm Jan Robertson.
Today's chalice lighting reading is by Reverend Gary Kowalski.
For daylight and darkness, for sunshine and rain, for the earth and all people we offer deep thanksgiving. Now we kindle this light in celebration of the life that we share.
The opening words were written by Max Kapp, titled Gratitude. Often I have felt that I must praise my world for what my eyes have seen these many years and what my heart has loved. And often I have tried to start my lines, "Dear Earth," I say, and then I pause to look once more. Soon I am bemused and far away in wonder. So I never get beyond "Dear Earth." I invite you now to join with Mary Abbey, a member of this congregation, in reciting the words of San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's affirmation. These words also express this congregation's covenant with each other. The words should appear on your screen.
Please join us in saying our affirmation. The doctrine of this church is love. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
I see that Karina, our Director of Religious Education, is joining us now with the Wonder Box and the story for all ages. I wonder what might be in that box today.
Good morning, everyone. Ooh, it's wonderful to be with you today, and there's something loud in this Wonder Box. Have you brought your wondering mind, minds that we use to help one another learn and grow? Make a guess as to what might be in here. Kind of loud, kind of jangly. Did you let someone else near you know what you think might be in here? I'm going to open it up. It's a glass. Not the first time we've had a glass in the Wonder Box, but I think this is the first time that I can just say, hey, you know what? I'm kind of thirsty. I'm going to give myself a little water to drink. But you know what? I'm only filling this up about halfway. So, is it half full or is it half empty? Maybe it's both. Reverend Sandy is preaching about gratitude today, and I've got a story about that. It's called
Bear Says Thanks by Karma Wilson, illustrations by Jane Chapman. All alone in his cave, Bear listens to the wind. He is bored, 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 and he misses his friends. I could make a big dinner, a feast I could share, but he looks through his cupboard, and the cupboard is bare. Then Mouse stops by with a huckleberry pie, and the bear says, thanks. Bear says, goodness me, a delectable pie, but I have made nothing, he adds with a sigh. Then they hear, hi-ho, and they both see Hare with a big batch of muffins at the door of the lair. Hare hurries in from the cold, rushing wind, and the bear says, thanks. Of course, says Hare. Then he points to the door. Here comes Badger. He's got even more. Brr, says Badger as he tromps inside. He sets down his pole, and he smiles real wide. I'm back from a stroll at the old fishing hole. And the bear says, thanks. Then Gopher and Mole tunnel up from the ground. We have warm honey nuts. Let's pass them around. There's a flap and a flitter and a flurry in the den when in flutters Owl with Raven and Wren. We have pears from the tree and herbs to brew tea. And the bear says, wait. Bear mutters and he stutters and he wears a big frown. Bear sighs and he moans and he plops himself down. You have brought yummy treats. You are so nice to share. But me, I have nothing. My cupboards are bare. Mouse squeaks, don't fret. There's enough, dear bear. You don't need any food. You have stories to share. His friends hug him tight. It will be all right. And the bear says, thanks. They lay out their feast on a quilt on the ground, and the bear takes a seat while his friends gather round. In a cave in the woods, in a warm, bright lair, the friends feel grateful for their good friend, Bear. They pass around platters, they tweet, and they chatter. And they all say, thanks. The end.
You know, I think Bear would have said that this glass was half empty. He was very concerned about not having food to share with his friends, which is understandable. We all want to be good hosts, but he was focused on what he didn't have. But his friends, I think, would say the glass was half full. They told him he was all right, even if his cupboard was bare. They were focusing on what Bear did have to share, his stories, his friendship, his company, maybe even his warm cave. I think they were appreciative of that. I really liked, though, how Bear listened and trusted his friends and stopped feeling bad and relaxed and accepted their thanks. That made it more possible for him to be grateful, and that way they could all be thankful together. That's what friends do for one another and how we learn from one another. We'll talk more about that in RE time today. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karina, for that story about Bear and his friends and why Bear said thanks. Because we are obviously unable to pass the offering plates when our services are only online, there will be information during the musical interlude about how to give to the fellowship in this pandemic time. That information will be repeated during the postlude. Thank you, musicians, for that beautiful and inspiring music. Take time now, everyone, to center yourselves as we have a moment of silence and meditation. The reading that I would like to share with you this morning is titled Pop's Prayer, and it was written by Unitarian Universalist minister Robert Walsh. He writes, "My earliest memory of a prayer is the table grace my grandfather used to say. I associate it with holiday meals, with extended family crowded around a long dining room table. I remember the smell of turkey gravy, the sight of bowed heads, and then the gruff voice of this old man delivering the prayer as if it were one long word, accented on the first and last syllables. Lord, make us thankful for these provisions we ask in Christ's sake. Amen." The last word sounded like ga-men. I thought that was the way one ended a prayer. I remember years when I had no idea what he was saying. The prayer had meaning that did not depend on knowing. It was an invocation for the larger liturgy of the meal. Its meanings, beyond language, had to do with bonds. My bonds to the food, my parents and sister, the aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents there, the warmth of the room, the celestial and human rhythms that brought us to that table, and other mysteries beyond these. There came a time when I figured out the words to Pop's prayer, but that did not seem to affect its meaning. It was much, much later, after turning this memory over until it was worn smooth, that I realized something important about the prayer. I had thought it was a prayer of thanksgiving, but Pop did not say, "Lord, thank you." He said, "Lord, make us thankful." It was a prayer of petition. We were beginning those special meals not with thanks for the bountiful gifts before us and around us, but with a confession that we were not thankful enough. Make us thankful. Wake us up. Our gratitude is dulled by the very abundance of what we have. Bring us somehow to enough clarity of vision to see what a miracle is this creation in which we find ourselves. In truth, we are not thankful enough. A confession with which to begin our thanksgiving. Amen. In truth, we are not thankful enough, concludes Walsh. As I wrote in this week's newsletter, lately I have been noticing that people aren't just saying thank you, where appropriate, but are often adding two words to those two words. So much. Thank you so much. As if using only the words thank you is not quite enough in these trying times. As if we need to express gratitude more intently, more forcefully. As in thank you so much. Thank you is so commonplace and trite. It doesn't really mean much, does it, given how often we use it? It drives me crazy when I put the word thanks or the phrase thank you into an email, and immediately the words get put in blue, highlighted in blue, to remind me that I might want to use different words instead of such overused ones. But no, I don't. Thank you very much. Really, I don't really want to find a different word than thanks, because like Reverend Walsh, I believe that in truth, we are not thankful enough. I suppose that I could start saying something like, much gratitude to you, or I'm so grateful to you, or even, you've made my day. Actually, not a bad idea. Mix it up a little, language-wise. Why not? I try to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, especially this time of year. But like so many good phrases, attitude of gratitude can be overused enough that it turns into a cliche, thus losing a lot of its impact and intent. Sometimes cliches then become schmaltzy, almost sickeningly sweet. The words can lose their meaning, their ability to influence how we live our daily lives. Language is a fascinating, human-oriented evolution or invention, isn't it? Unitarian Universalist minister Derek Jackson wrote this: "Despite my discomfort with the myth behind the American Thanksgiving holiday, I do believe that making time for gratitude is important, and that we should do this on an ongoing basis, not just once a year. Gratitude helps us be aware of what is going on in us and around us. It strengthens relationships, illuminating the interconnected web of all existence. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude improves physical, mental, and emotional health, and I would add spiritual health to that list as well. I am aware," Jackson writes, "that although I experience gratitude often, I don't always take the time to name it and express it. For me, that means naming my gratitude in the moment and saying thank you, and to send notes of appreciation even for things that happened long ago. We never know if that person might need our appreciation at that moment," concludes Jackson. How many of you have given or received a thank you note recently? There are various ways to express gratitude, to give thanks, to be thankful, to embody that attitude of gratitude. Unitarian Universalist minister David Blanchard has found that the word praise is useful for him and his family, especially at holiday dinners. And in the reading I shared a few minutes ago, Robert Walsh liked the word prayer, and also a word that isn't a word, though as a child he thought it was, Amen. UU minister Kathleen McTeague finds that the word grace is important for her when giving thanks. And I think she's also implying that, as one of my favorite bumper stickers puts it, grace happens. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say this morning about giving thanks, the word grace kept popping up in my head, which of course sent me to the dictionary. Gratitude. From Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, the state of being grateful. Yeah, right. Thankfulness. Grace. Linked in roots of words to grateful, thanks, and to Sanskrit, he praises. Grace is one of those elusive words. It's not tied into any specific religion or belief system. In the dictionary, it says disposition to kindness, favor, clemency, or compassion, benign goodwill. The third definition of grace in the dictionary I was using, and I like all those words, and they're meaningful to me, but you might first think of the definition of grace, the one that is deeply connected to Thanksgiving dinners. Grace is that short prayer or blessing given before partaking of a meal, but that's pretty specific to me and too limited. There are, for me, two pillars upon which to build an attitude of gratitude, and grace is intertwined through all of this. One is to try to be a non-anxious presence, and the other is telling our stories and listening to the stories of others. Being a non-anxious presence involves being in the moment, a concept central to the Buddhist tradition. Being a non-anxious presence allows you to see what is really happening around you. It allows you to be grateful in an entirely different way because you learn how to detach yourself enough to be able to say, "Oh, you mean it's not all about me?" To be present in this way means learning how to be here now. As for storytelling, well, that doesn't need much explaining. The third verse of the closing hymn that you will sing in a few minutes goes like this. We sing of the prophets, the teachers, the dreamers, designers, creators, and seers. Our own lives expanding, our gratitude commanding. Their deeds have made immortal their days and their years. That is what I mean when I express my gratitude for all those countless, really, and often nameless, multitudes of people who have shaped my beliefs and expanded my knowledge of the world, largely through storytelling. I give thanks during this Thanksgiving season for all those encounters with people whose presence, whose being, whose existence has touched my beingness and expanded my store of gratitude, of gratefulness for life. How do you express gratitude? More importantly, how do you live it, embody it? Use it as one of the most important tools in your how to get through life toolbox. How do you, or do you, use gratitude, thankfulness in the dark times? And I don't mean just the literal dark season, which we are entering now as we get closer and closer to the winter solstice. I mean, how, if at all, does gratitude affect your life when everything seems to be going wrong, when you have lost everything? I am thinking particularly of all the fires in the West this year. How do you express gratitude if and when you have lost someone very dear to you? In other words, as the author Elizabeth Gilbert wrote, anyone can be happy when they get what they want. The challenge is to stay grateful and peaceful even when the world around you feels crazy and dangerous and horrible. And that is our world right now, at this moment in time, isn't it? It is crazy and dangerous and horrible. Yes, the world has undoubtedly always had these elements, but knowing that doesn't make living in these times any less difficult. We are under siege in just about every aspect of our lives, from the political arena to the economic one and on to the slowly growing awareness that we have to dismantle the structure of white supremacy upon which the United States of America has been built. And you add to that three-pronged attack that life or the universe is throwing at us at this moment. Add to that our personal challenges, traumas, and tragedies. Life didn't stop being difficult at the personal level just because it has become so difficult on every other level. How useful is our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition when times are dark and things are rough? Is ours a faith you can turn to when you are lost, depressed, angry, bewildered, anxious? And please note that I am by no means the first person to ask these questions. Our religion, our belief system, our tradition, whatever you are comfortable calling this gathering together of free thinkers, has often been accused of being too optimistic, too cheery, too happy, too onward and upward looking. A faith that might not stand up to real world challenges. Is this true? When we are in the midst of scary times, will our faith carry us through them? I am traveling through my own personal dark winter of the soul moment. I am in despair. I am losing everything in my life, or so it seems. And on the 26th of November, Thanksgiving, I'm recording this on November 25th. So tomorrow, on November 26th, my oldest grandchild will be 26. Her golden birthday is tomorrow. And I've discovered that some of you here in Texas don't know what a golden birthday is. I don't know if that's just a Pennsylvania or Wisconsin thing. I think it's kind of obvious, right, what it is. I don't know this young woman who is turning 26 tomorrow at all. When she was 14, she stopped communicating with her dad, my son, and soon thereafter with me, and I think eventually with everyone on our side of the family. I don't know why. How useful is my Unitarian Universalist faith to me as I try to make my way forward through this particular wilderness, struggling to get beyond this dark moment of my soul? Where might the practice of gratitude, the way of gratitude, fit into my life in these dark times? Here's what I have learned thus far. The pandemic requires that we go deeper in our search for meaning in life. The murder of George Floyd and all the other murders that have happened to people of color for hundreds of years in this country, all those murders call us to go deeper in our openness to life. The uncertainty following the worldwide economic collapse challenges us to go deeper in our understanding of spirituality and the spiritual practice of gratitude. And all of those apply to how we will be able to move through our personal tragedies. As so often happens to me, I stumbled upon just the right book at the right time. The Way of Gratitude, A New Spirituality for Today, is a brand new book written by Unitarian Universalist minister Galen Guengerich, who is the senior minister at All Souls UU Church in New York City. He likes to say that he has gone from being a Mennonite to being a Manhattanite. He was a Mennonite for the first 20 plus years of his life, and eventually he found his way to us, and I think he's been the minister at All Souls in New York for maybe 20 years now. Galen Guengerich, on a visit to Israel, met a man named Nathan Sharansky. Some of you might recognize that name. Sharansky was a chess prodigy from the Soviet Union, back when there was a Soviet Union, who was imprisoned by the Soviet government because he was a human rights activist. Sharansky told Guengerich that he learned the most important lesson of his life while in prison. People want two things. They want to be free, and they want to belong. Most people think freedom comes first, and then belonging follows. The opposite is true. You need to belong in order to be free. In order for your life to have meaning and purpose, you need to belong, said Sharansky. In our search for meaning and purpose, we have to open ourselves to openness. Because the key to spirituality is the practice of openness. And most of you, and by that I mean you in Unitarian Universalist congregations, you back away from saying you are religious. Okay, I'm fine with that. But you say you are spiritual. You are not religious. You are seeking meaning and purpose in life through being spiritual, not through the dictates of a religious creed. Okay, let's be clear, or try to be, about spirituality and how we are spiritual and how we get there. Guengerich says that as we open ourselves, we begin to realize in a new way how much we rely on the people and the world around us and how much they rely on us. The appropriate spiritual response to this awareness is gratitude, the gateway to meaning. Here's what Guengerich means when he uses the word openness. Using the language of spirituality, openness means everything, being open to everything beyond ourselves. You can also describe this as the experience of transcendence. But it means developing the ability, the tools, if you will, to go beyond the confines of our daily lives and open ourselves to the reality of the larger world and our place in it. It involves opening ourselves wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, completely to everything, good experiences and bad ones, kindness and awfulness. And we Unitarian Universalists should have an advantage here, I think. Remember our seventh principle, we covenant to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. When Galen Guengerich and I, at this moment, what we are trying to explain in that one word, openness, is not an easy concept to grasp. I can't explain to you why, but I have always believed that everything is interconnected. Everything is related to everything else. Here's something that may or may not help you. In his book, This is Water, David Foster Wallace tells this parable. So there are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" The point, Wallace goes on, the most important realities are often the hardest to see. Each of us is like a fish in water. There is no experience we've had that we were not the absolute center of. Transcendence is the process of trying to climb out of the water and see the reality of our lives and our relationship to everything else, all that is present in our lives and our world, as well as all that is past and all that is possible. This shift from inbound attention on the center of the world, ourselves, to outbound attention on the rest of the world marks the transition from the secular to the spiritual. Guengerich gives us some tools, some markers that he calls the 7 hallmarks of gratitude, which will record or track our progress in our relationships to the people and the world around us, and also describe our responsibilities in return. These responsibilities are our commitments to ourselves, to the people around us, and to the earth. And they are what Guengerich calls gratitude goals. I will just mention a couple of them because unfortunately there's not enough time to talk about all of them. There is no such thing as a self-reliant human being. This is a mirage, a myth that Western culture in particular has spread. So one of our gratitude goals must be to bless the sources of our sustenance. Think of the grace said before a Thanksgiving meal, for example, but think about the fact that every time we eat a meal, we didn't produce that meal by ourselves. We didn't usually grow the food. Blessing the sources of our sustenance is a phrase used by Robin Wall Kimmerer in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. Here's another gratitude goal, because everything is related and connected. One of our goals must be to be in alignment with the needs of the natural world upon which we are completely dependent. In other words, take care of Mother Earth as one of your gratitude goals. And here we are, maybe eventually coming out of a pandemic. It's a ways yet. Maybe eventually changing some rules and laws so that we can put the problem with the climate more up at the top of our goals. Along these same lines, one of our gratitude goals should be to create beauty in a broken and mutilated world. Try to Praise the Mutilated World is a poem by Adam Zagajewski that was published in the New Yorker 2 weeks after 9/11. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of wine, the dew, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. is ours a faith you can turn to when you are lost, depressed, angry, bewildered, anxious? I hope so. I hope that here in this space, although even when it's a virtual space, I hope that we trust each other enough to practice being non-anxious presences. I hope that here in this place, whether virtual or not, we practice telling and listening to stories. Yes, our faith calls us to go deeper into the transition, the transformation, the transcendent experience of going from the increasing secularization of the culture to an increasing spirituality in our lives through the way of gratitude made possible by the practice of openness. Thus we go deeper in our responses to personal tragedies and to the pandemic and to the challenges of the current upheavals necessary for deconstructing white privilege systems. And we go deeper and deeper into ways to survive and come out thriving the economic chaos, because doing the repair work of the world will be done in gratitude that we are alive, that there is a world to repair, that we have each other, and that we understand how much we need to be free agents who depend on each other and the natural world and the other way around, because those others and the natural world depend on us. Our faith tradition demands that we go deeper into the way of gratitude by practicing openness towards the past, without which we would not even be here, let alone be who we have become, and by practicing openness towards the unlimited possibilities of the future. Emily Dickinson wrote, "I dwell in possibility." Galen Guengerich says, God is the experience of possibility. Because of those who have gone before us, we have the gifts from the past that has formed us, as well as the hopes of the future that is full of endless possibility. Take the way of gratitude. Practice radical openness to life. Repeat after me. Thank you so much. Sing now together our song of thanksgiving.
As we extinguish the light of this chalice, may we remember that community is the spirit, the guiding light of the tribe, whereby people come together in order to fulfill a specific purpose, to help others fulfill their purpose, and to take care of one another.
Closing words were written by the Reverend Kathleen McTeague, titled Thanksgiving Benediction. What questions do you think you need answered in order to wake to the morning and step into your life with joy? Listen. The dark branches scrolled sharp against a pure sky are the only map you will ever receive. When you look at those lines, when you attend to them until you feel yourself lifted by their dark runes into the clear winter sun or the dimming light of evening, there is your guide. When gratitude rises as the only prayer of your heart, you are learning at last what it is to be fully alive. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.